Hey everyone, it's Evangeline here at Etrailer, and today we have the Kuat Piston Pro 3-bike platform rack. This is going to be a dual wheel mount rack that allows you to carry your bikes quickly and easily, and we have the 2+1 configuration right now. We'll talk about how this makes it a little easier for you to carry multiple bikes, but also some other things you may want to look out for to see which one is the best fit for you. This bike rack has a lot of versatility for weight as well as size of different bikes, but in a 3-bike configuration, you do have a capacity of 40 pounds per bike, maximum tire width of up to 5 inches, and because of how it's designed, it actually makes it easier for those bulkier bikes. In its name, the Kuat Piston Pro, we have this one-touch piston. So you just hit it and it disengages the wheel mount. Now, if you're looking at this versus the Piston Pro X, you will notice that the coating here is not Kashima coating. That's something you'll see from the Pro X version. Most of this rack is made of metal, which is awesome for durability, but it also makes it a bit heavy. Now this allows you to mount and dismount your bikes very easily. And then the piston also has that ratcheting system. So listen closely, right there. That's when it starts securing your bikes. So if you have those longer wheelbase mountain bikes, you can see how this really is designed to help out with securing them. But even if you don't have that long of a wheelbase, notice how I'm sliding our bike back and forth on this tray. That allows me to get a better fit around things like handlebars and pedals and seats. This point right here on other racks might be very tricky, but with this rack, I was able to just quickly move this around. Securing the bike, we have our wheel mount. And on the side of the wheel mount, you actually see the different tire sizes that this is capable of carrying. So we have 29-inch wheels here, or 700cc, and then you can go down to the smaller wheel sizes. This can even carry our less than 20-inch diameter wheels or bikes with fenders, but they do recommend using the fender kit. That is an add-on available here at Etrailer. If you need to adjust for different tire sizes, this has a very easy pinch and slide system. So you just bring this over to the spot that matches your wheel size, and just like that, you're ready to mount your bike. The dual wheel mount design is interesting because it makes for a very quick and easy way to secure your bikes. Another perk to it is that there's zero frame contact. So whether you have a step-through frame, carbon fiber frame, maybe you have a nice paint finish, it doesn't really matter because there's zero contact. Now, some people, they don't like the lack of extra steps because they think it's not as stable. And while there is a little bit of movement here of the bikes, it's all held together. In fact, let's go on to our test course so you can see it in action. So we're gonna go on our test course and we have different things we take a look at. First, we're gonna go on to the bumps course where we have speed bumps. This is gonna be our regular up and down speed bumps, just to see that up and down movement of the bikes on the rack. Then we have our alternating speed bumps to simulate leaving a driveway that has a curve on one side, or just that side to side diagonal movement. Here's gonna be where we make our quick maneuver. So some side to side movement here, some sharp U-turns. Things in the car or the truck are moving around, but nothing is extremely moving around on the bike rack, which is awesome. You do see some tilt, but that's the whole rack tilting, if anything. Tilting this away is a little bit of a struggle because of the location of the lever. When you add on to this rack, you are not adding on to the lever. It stays right there between the first tray and the second tray. So here's some options. If you're comparing between the 3-bike and the 4-bike, but you're only carrying around 3 bikes, the 3-bike still makes it a little achievable to reach that lever. A second option is if you really want to tilt the rack away and you cannot reach that lever, that's when people start looking at hitch extensions to swing this entire thing out. Kuat likes to use the Kuat pivot. I'm not as big of a fan of that option just because when you pivot a rack away, you deal with different tongue weight capacities, things like that. Now, we'll go back into that when we talk about your hitch capacity. But first, let's tilt this away. I'm gonna hold the bike rack up with one hand as I lift up on the rack and I pull at this lever. Then I'm gonna very carefully try not to get hit by bikes as this comes down to a tilt. That tilt was pretty steep. I highly recommend having a second person help you out with supporting the rack to give you enough time to get into a spot that's not as close to the rack as it comes down. Even with your bikes on, having that rack tilted away allows you to open up your hatch, open up your trunk, or lower your tailgate. Unfortunately, as low as that tilt away feature is, it might still not be enough depending on your vehicle. With the bikes on, we have contact with our bike, and with the bikes off, we would actually still have contact with that base. So a quick measurement here is from the top of the shank to the top of that base tilted away is going to be 10 inches of height. That'll help you figure out if this has clearance with you and your hitch and your car. Another thing to measure for is where does this sit away in comparison to your bumper. So I like to measure from the center of the hitch pin hole to that closest point where it tilts away, and that's gonna be 13 inches. So if you measure from your hitch pin hole, 13 inches out, and then 10 inches up, that will show you where your bike rack is. Let's talk about measurements while we're here. Now, the length is gonna add to the back of your vehicle. I like to measure again from that hitch pin hole to the end of the rack, and ours sits at 41 inches of length. That'll help you figure out if you have space, if you have a small garage, or need to park into a tight parking spot. The next measurement is going to be ground clearance. So, measuring from that inside edge of your hitch receiver to the bottom of our tray here, that's going to be 11 inches of shank rise. With the bikes off, this is usually when people move the rack into the compact or portable position. Remember that lever we pulled earlier? Well, we're going to pull it again, but this time, instead of letting the bike rack drop down to a tilt, we're going to lift it up. It is kind of hefty, but still doable, and once it's in the upright position, it stays there. But how compact is the compact position? Well, if we measure again from the center of the hitch pin hole to the end of the rack, that's going to be 16 inches. And if you measure for the closest point, that's going to be hitch pin hole to where our wheel mounts stick out, that's going to be 6 inches. So that will help you figure out if it does take up a lot of space behind your vehicle and if you are able to fold it up into this position. With it folded up like this, the 3 bike rack obviously does not take up as much space as the 4 bike rack would. To secure your rack, you do have an anti-rattle wedge. So on the shank of your bike, there's a wedge that pushes out to make sure that you don't have as much wobble. But to push that wedge out, you get this tool, and it's going to be a tamper-proof Allen key, where it's a 5mm key that has a hole in the middle. So tighten that down until there's no longer any wobble in the rack, then you're good to go. So when comparing this bike rack with some other bike racks, I did mention the Kuat Piston Pro X pretty often in this video because that is going to be the upgraded version of this. But if you want to look at other options that are not within the Kuat brand, I brought out the Ceres MHS. This is going to also be a dual wheel mount bike rack, so you have that similar look and ease of loading, but you do have some features as well. So this has an 80-pound per bike weight capacity, and then when you put the 3 bike add-on, it's going to have a 35-pound capacity for the add-on while maintaining that 80 pounds for the other 2. So that's going to be a bit more than the Kuat Piston Pro. But the alternative to that is this has that really cool piston where it opens the dual wheel mount, making for really a nice look when you're there at the parking lot, versus the Ceres MHS where it's a little bit of a struggle to activate that wheel mount. But on the other hand, the MHS has a wheel chock and a strap, creating more touch points to really secure your bikes, while with the Piston Pro, you just have the 2 wheel mounts. All in all, my thoughts on the Kuat Piston Pro is I do like it because the Pro X is your premium rack at a very premium price. If you like how the pistons work, if you like how the dual wheel mount works, and you like how Kuat makes their bike rack so streamlined and sleek, then the Kuat Piston Pro is a great way to get into that bike rack world. And with this rack, you also have all of those important features. You have locks, you have the cable locks, you have the adjustment for the different tire sizes and wheelbases. Hopefully, this video helped explain the differences of those features, because you need to make sure that this fits your bikes first and foremost. And if it does fit your bikes, does it fit your car or your truck or your van? And after that, does it fit you and your lifestyle? This is a very heavy rack, and I had to have help getting this onto the hitch receiver. But if you're carrying around 3 bikes, then ideally you'll also have help lifting it up and tilting the rack away. So those are all things to consider, and hopefully this video helped you on your journey to find the best bike rack for you. Here at Etrailer, this is available as a full kit of the 2 bike platform base and the 1 bike add-on, but you can also get them individually if you want. But right here, right now, this was a look at the Kuat Piston Pro 3 bike rack here at etrailer.com. My name is Evangeline, and I hope you enjoyed the journey.